Oh, Mike White.
That was funny. It dropped.
That's cool, Mike Drop. That was a cool. I think that was funny. And we're back together again. Welcome, everybody. Hello. Hello.
Hi.
Hello, my mother-in-law.
Hello, Josh, my son-in-law. How are
You
you?
know it. We are family and all of the good stuff above. So let us talk a little bit about how we can get help for ourselves. Mary, what was that journey like for you? Do you want to say anything to kick us off before I share what I've learned?
Yeah, it's so funny because um, I did have someone ask me, like, what did you do? And so the first step for me was to go through my insurance to see what was offered there. And it is covered through the insurance I have. So that was really comforting to know. And uh, with my provider, it's easier to go through the step-by-step process and they walk you through it. And then with my provider, they also like have it's since COVID, it's always been on Zoom, and it's remained on Zoom mostly. You can go in person, but it's nice to have those options that if you can't make it in person, you can go. In this past summer when I was in that, it was a seasonal depression. And I was like, oh, what's something going on? And so they did the worksheets online and I did the work. And then we had the Zoom meeting. So just makes it really um, easy for people who are going through stuff. And so I kind of like my provider for that. So what about you, Josh?
That's
What
it. I
was
think that's
your
an amazing first step
avenue?
is to connect with insurance. And so, well, let's start there. So insurance will get you the categories of treatment like psychiatric providers, professional therapists, that kind of stuff. They could even fund DBT groups and things like that. If you don't have insurance, there's still some mental health support you can get. There's free support groups. There's like DBSA, Depression Bipolar Support Alliance. It's a national program, so you could just Google that. There's also 12-step meetings if you're struggling with substance use. There's Refuge Recovery, which is a Buddhist-based mindfulness support group that also explores
Mm.
addiction issues and stuff like that. So there's things if you don't have insurance, but let's explore what happens if you do. And if it's complicated to navigate, I would recommend turning to a safe person and asking them to walk you through it. Maybe that's not everyone. But if you're able to, the step to connect to insurance, if you don't have insurance, here in San Diego County, you can just call 211. And 211 is our sort of network hub that can connect you to a whole bunch of different things. I'm going to speak to the California system just because that's the one that I know, even though I was psychiatrically hospitalized in Hawaii, this is the mental health system I know best. And so probably around the country, there's something similar to this. So 211 in San Diego or your local number can connect you to medical insurance applications covered California. We could actually do an application over the phone for medical, which is free health insurance if your income is below a certain level. Your employer might be able to offer the health insurance. So once you've connected to that insurance provider, then you would call like the customer service number or something on the back of the card that you get and tell them that you'd like mental health support. And they could connect you to psychiatrists and therapists and that sort of thing. So once you do that, then people will go visit with their psychiatrist for the first time. It'll normally be maybe a 45-minute to an hour session. The first one's a little bit longer. You just share how you've been, what you're struggling with, how things are. And if they think it's a good fit, they could talk to you about medications that might work with you. With therapy, it's a similar sort of thing. They're about 50-minute sessions. I wish they were more often, but mine were like, say, once a month when I was going through my stuff, and then it went down to once every 2 months. Um, Maybe there's places where you can get it more often than that. So that will connect you to what your insurance can pay for. There's a whole bunch of other kinds of services which I can talk about after this, but let's turn it back to you, Mary, if you have any thoughts about any of that.
Yeah, you just triggered something about my employment. I remember, I mean, I did have insurance, but our employer offered what they call EAP, Employer Assistance Program. And so they give you 10 free sessions, no questions asked. You just went, you didn't have to pay any copays, nothing. And you just went and talked. And I did that like when I was going through just some turmoil, and it wasn't heavy, but I was just going through a lot. And so that was great. And you know, teachers are very, you know, some jobs are so stressful and and you don't even have to have anything wrong with you. It's just everyday stress. How do you deal with that? And that EAP is where I went for that. And it was great and it gave me a therapist to work with. And so that was great. Got 10 free sessions. And then they referred me back to my medical. And then I kept going with that. So, and then for my kids, I knew about play therapy. So I made sure through my insurance that I requested therapists who specialized with kids and then had the play therapy because I really liked that. So that was a favorite of mine for my kids when they were going through the custody battle and, you know, their divorce of their parents. So that's crucial too, to get help for your children as well. And then
Yeah.
talk about the 12-step program. Again, I went through the Al-Anon program, but just having that 12 steps and working, let me work through it. Let me give me cognitive stuff to work with so that it can make sense because I'm so 97% emotional. I needed the logic behind how to get better. And so that 12-step program provided steps to, you know, okay, I can do this step and then I can go on and I get this. And those steps really helped too. It helped me open and analyze and be honest with myself because that's one of the first steps too to recovery is being honest with yourself. You know, even if in depression and anxiety, you have to see it for what it is and not what you think it is and what you want it to be and not that you hope it is. So those avenues allow you to use your cognitive skills to work through it. And I think that's really important too.
100%. Yeah, I love CBT and just those different modalities. The 12-step, the spiritual component in that, I love. I also used my EAP program to actually get hypnotherapy. And the guy like hypnotized me. I believed I was like an eagle living in Native American times. It was quite the adventure. So that was really cool. So that is a category of kind of insurance-based or employer-based supports that you can get. I know me and you, we actually made a video on this for NAMI and the Library of San Diego. And so there's another category of people though. If it's like an emergency, like if you're like struggling, it's like, oh, I can't even get to like insurance. I need help now. Just want to touch on that real quick because
Yeah, go
there's a
ahead.
few things that you could do with that. Okay, if it's like super bad, like life or death, you a threat to yourself or to other people,
Yeah.
or you really wandering in traffic and don't know what's going on, odds are you might not be watching this video, but if you are, or at least if you have the knowledge, then you'll be able to call 988. 988 is kind of the equivalent of 911 for mental health emergencies. And so that will connect you to, often there's peer support teams who can come out with other people who get it, PERT teams, psychiatric emergency response teams who can come out who are specially trained in these things. I've been both arrested by 911 and had encounters with 988 post officers, and this was such a better experience, really well rounded. So if it's an emergency, you could call 988. If you would need to, if you feel like you're not really safe and you need to go to a hospital, you could go to the hospitals yourself. There's a bunch of them within San Diego County. There's likely one near you, or have a loved one drive you to hospital. When you get there, they'll do an assessment, and just heads up, sometimes you can check yourself into the hospital, but for a few days you can't check yourself out even after I tried to check myself out, but it's a good thing. Ultimately, they probably ended up saving my life. So you can check yourself into these hospitals. Some of them are really cool. Like it's chill. There's volleyball nets and basketball and guitars and chill vibes, really open-minded people. There's some of them not as much. I did get things from the hospital, but I also kind of wanted to get out of them. So the hospital is an option. There's also like crisis hospitals for children, like you mentioned. There's a bunch of them in the county here where it's like an emergency psychiatric facility for children. And then they'll get assessments and they could be checked in, or they could do a kind of hybrid program where they stay there during the day and then they come home and sleep at night. And then that transitions to the other final thing that I'll say is about intensive outpatient programs, IOPs. So maybe a therapy session once a month is not enough. Or maybe you need like you're saying, you really want to get in there and really work the stuff. There's these programs where you can go to say 4 to 5 hours a day, where you can go there. They have therapy sessions, they have groups, they have all these modalities that actually work for an IOP program. And then you go home and you sleep at night, you live your life, you work your job, and then you come into these programs. So that's a little bit like of a step up if you wanted something like that. So any thoughts about that, or anything that you'd like to add to any of those?
In my experience with myself with anxiety and depression, I was fortunate that I could call on people to help me through a really bad depression. But I'm wondering for those people who just don't think they can make it. And I just want to make sure that everyone knows that, I mean, I am so thankful to God that I had people to help me through um, my times that I did try to kill myself, and there were people in my path, and it took the third time to realize that God gave me the gift of life, and my gift back to God was to do all I can for his good. So, but that took me a while, right? So I just want to make sure everybody knows that you feel what you feel, but please, 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 please reach out for help when you're feeling where you can't, where it's just so much. Like I said, I didn't want to die. I did not want to die, but the pain, I wanted to get rid of the pain and I didn't know how. It was the pain of everything that I was feeling. And I just didn't know how. And so, you know, ask for prayer. I went to church. And after church, I was feeling so bad that I just waited for the priest, and he prayed with me and he said, and he blessed me. So even if you're at church and you're feeling so down, ask the priest to pray with you and he will. I had 3 priests who did that for me and it helped. And so there are avenues, and please use the resources. Go to the ER. I beg you to do that, because life, like this, my favorite song, and I'm probably going to cry right now because but I know you guys need to hear this. The song always from my experience always reminds me of the song with Garth Brooks. I could have missed the pain, but I would have missed the dance. And the dance is my grandbabies and my children and the family and the love and seeing God's goodness and fruition. I'm so thankful and grateful to the people who stepped in and helped me every step of the way in my life. Because yeah, I could have missed the pain, but the dance, guys, the dance is worth working through every pain you have. From my mouth to your ears, I promise you, God's gift to you of life is worth it. And if I could give you come on here, I will call you, I will talk to you, and I will tell you that life is so wonderful because it is, and because I believe in God, I even know more that it is for me. And I am so grateful and so thankful. So I know I'm getting emotional, but I think it's important for you guys to hear that someone who experienced enough pain that wanted me to say this was too much. It's not. And families, reach out your hand to them. No matter what they say to you, reach out your hand. And through God and through everything, and even if you don't believe in God, please reach out. And it's love. Love is the answer. Love is the answer as well. So I just wanted to say that, Josh. Thanks.
From the heart, that's beautiful, right? They're 97% emotional. And there's a little percentage of that, but emotion is power and it's real lived experience. Yeah. Well, thanks for being so real with us and so vulnerable with us. And for you guys listening, like, she loves the dance. She loves the dance. Just before this, my little granddaughter came up here, and the dance is still continuing through the genetic line. And a huge part of it is your resiliency, your connecting to others, God infusing you with Himself that allowed you to dance that dance. And so, guys, yeah, I mean, storms are gnarly. They can be intense. Hurricanes can knock us around, and they pass. They also pass. And so, yeah, I just want to back up what you say. I think it's fantastic. I think that people can see, hindsight's 2020. You can see on the other side how beautiful things can get. But if you're in the storm right now, things can get more colorful than you can ever imagine. So please do get the help. We kind of touched on emergency situations. There's also suicide lifelines. There's even suicide texting lines if you don't feel like you can talk to someone. We covered the hospitals. We've covered the insurance ways to get therapy and ways to get psychiatric medications and that sort of stuff. And even for lower incomes, these things can be free as well. And then we've covered support groups and some of the faith-based support groups, well-rounded systems that can help to get our biopsychosocial spiritual needs met. So that's about what we got right now. Do you have any concluding thoughts for us there, Mary?
Well, I want to touch a little bit on the stigma of mental health, right? There's a stigma and there shouldn't be. Be open and honest and you will get help. And it's okay to feel what you're feeling. Trust me, it's okay to feel what you're feeling. Reach out your hand because loved ones are all around you, even though you don't know it. If you need to make comments in our thing, I will reach out to you. We'll reach out to you. Josh is so full of knowledge too, guys. So, reach out here, put it in the comments. If you know someone who needs to reach out to us, we'll listen anytime. And I want to put that out there.
It's a beautiful thing because we get it. We've been through it ourselves, and that's the power of lived experience. And just to plug NAMI here, NAMI's got a peer warm line that you can call, and it's answered by someone who gets it, who's been through it. There's also really powerful NAMI support groups for both family members and for peers, where you get amongst communities. Like, even if you don't want to talk, guys, if it's just too much to be around people, like I've seen in some of these meetings, people just go there and they just sit there in a blanket and they just even rock back and forth. They don't say anything, but just absorbing what's around, just knowing that you're not alone. I think there's a real catharsis.
Knowing that you're not alone. That's huge.
That's it. And we got each other, my mother-in-law, which is beautiful. And we got our community. So guys, thanks for pulling in. We're part of something larger, and we think it's a real blessing that you're here with us. Until the next one. Bye. That's cool, Mike. That was cool.